what ifs, like would having a safety net like insurance or a backup plan, would that have changed your whole approach on taking your leap that you've made?
If I had a backup plan, probably not, because my impulsivity serves me well. I sometimes I don't think of maybe my husband is my safety, because he's there to support me, and he has the job. So if I was a single mom and doing this, it would definitely be harder putting out the money that I've put out for this second business.
Yeah.
I would I got to wire that much money,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess, if I think in those terms, my husband is my safety net. It helps when you're not doing something alone, that it gives you a little assurance, but still, there's some scary moves that I have to make still, and I have to kind of push him like, nope, we're doing this. This is how we're going to scale. Yeah. And yep, I'm writing that big check, hun. We'll get, it's going to come back in many ways,
Yeah.
so.
So, because I think you kind of touched on it. So like, what's the next big, bold move for you, and are you still a little afraid to take it? And, if you are, like, what's holding you back?
The next big, bold move is definitely centered around silver lining, the reselling, just definitely, scaling that, developing some bigger relationships with suppliers, and that requires more bigger money. And am I scared? No. I don't think, I might have little moments of like, my heart, but then I'm like, just go.
Yeah.
I've learned to make friends with fear, because it's just a feeling. It's a temporary feeling. Yeah. And I know that if I make friends with it, and if I can just jump over her, there's so much good that's going to be on that other side. And if it doesn't work out, there's going to be a lesson. A lesson. It's going to, then I'll pivot and do something else, So yeah, I don't really fear it. It's exciting to me.
Yeah.
It just like fills me in a whole different way. I'm like, ooh, what's on that other side? Let's go check it out.
Awesome. All right. So I've got some quick fire questions for you here. So what is your favorite book, podcast, or resource that just ultimately inspires you to be bold?
That's hard, because I have so many books. I love this might be weird, but I do love like podcasts around finances, because I think there's so many lessons in that, right? Because you kind of have to just, when you're thinking about your finances and investing, you have to just go, do, and let it be. And so that's kind of the approach that I use with some of the things that I do also, is just go, do, and then let it be. Let it rest, let it see. So I kind of get those lessons like from financial podcasts and like books. Like I've read Tony Robbins' finance books, and then I listen to some financial podcasts. But I also, the one book that really made an impact on me this last year was the one by Ed Milet, One More. One more, just one more, right? And so when you think you can't do something, try it one more time. When that person said no, let's get one more person. Let's try one more person, So that just, to me, then I think of that, it's like just break it down in little pieces. If you look at this big thing, of course it's going to be overwhelming, but if you kind of look at it in chunk bite sizes, it's kind of like somebody once told me, how do you eat an elephant? I'm like, what? You don't. What do you mean how to eat an elephant? I'm like, is this a trick question? I don't have time for this. One bite at a time,
That's funny.
so Ed Milet's one more. And then I love the energy bus. I love the energy bus because I think if you could, it's all about positivity, your outlook. I think it starts there. If you wake up in the morning and you already have a crappy attitude, you're going to have a crappy day. But if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, who can I serve? Who can I meet today? Who can I just give something back to?
Yeah.
You're going to have a great day. You're going to have an amazing day.
That's true.
You just will, and that's one thing, like the last 10 years, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, yeah, let's go,
Just piggybacking off of what you said there a little bit. So I like listening and following. Have you ever heard of Vanessa Van Edwards? I think it is. She is a really good speaker on like body language and charisma and all this other stuff. But she was saying that a lot of the like most successful people, or the most liked people, when they see people, they're always giving them a really big introduction, like a really big welcome. Like if you were to walk in, you're like, "Hey, Liz, how's it going? It's like so great to see you." Like not fake, but like very big.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because on the flip side, that person feels more like welcomed.
Yeah.
And I guess she was saying like, if you do that a few times, then it like mentally puts this connection where that person sees you as a very positive and welcoming person. And it kind of just like creates this bond.
Yeah.
And so it was just interesting. There's a lot of other stuff that she says, but it was just fascinating because like I think back to times where people have greeted me that way, and you really do feel special. You're like, oh wow, it's just interesting.
You feel valued and seen, and that you matter, and that's why I go that extra mile with Silva Lining on the Whatnot app to learn these ladies' names.
Yes,
it's a difficult thing because my memory's not very good,
me too.
and I know there's so much power when you address somebody by their first name and in the greeting.
It is weird.
Yeah.
Like I'm a visual person, so faces I recognize, names is really difficult for me.
Yeah.
But there is like when you say somebody's name, and it's so weird because for me, I used to feel weird like to do that.
Yeah.
But on again, putting yourself in the opposite place, it's received like very differently, and you're like, whoa, well, interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's so strange. I was just thinking like when you come into like an office or work, and like when your manager or somebody, when they're just like, oh, hey, how's it going? You're kind of like feel like, okay, but when they're like, hey, you feel like, okay, let's get to it. You know?
And it's okay if sometimes I'm a little bit much for people, and I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. Because it might take them a couple of times to be around me, and then it's like, oh, okay. And then their little, other side starts coming out, and it gives them freedom to express, So I'm okay. I'm okay if they think I'm a little cray-cray.
Well, I always think about when I do acting, because like I used to do a lot of acting.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get back into it, but so when you're overdoing things a lot of times, in my mind, especially like this is for like theater stuff, you think you're overdoing it, but from the audience perspective, like you're not. Like it's very normal. And so because I was doing some theater stuff for my church, and I was like doing some, for me, I was thinking I was over exaggerating this and that, and then you look at the playback, you're like, oh, that looks pretty
good.
Pretty
I could have went a little more. Yeah.
But on the flip side, when you see somebody who's just kind of like just thinking they're doing it normal or whatever, it looks so dull and boring, and it's so just on the other side, you just kind of like bring it down a notch for them, because it's not as cray as you probably think it is.
Oh no, and that's why like with the reselling, I just I when I run clothing, I bring my disco, my Casey and the Sunshine Band, and the Bee Gees and Donna Summer out, and we just have
That's
fun,
awesome.
you know. And then I have the country, the Patsy Cline, the, Loretta Lynn days, it's what you create,
Yeah.
and when you can create that, when you greet somebody, there's so much power in that, so much.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Don't worry about what people think about you.
So true.
Don't worry about what people think about you. As long as you could put your head down at night and say, good job. That's what matters.
In one word, how would you encourage someone to be bolder today?
In one word. Oh man. Well, it's funny. The word is expand. I pick a word of the year every year, and ironically, that was my word that I picked last January before we launched the second business. It's expand. If you can expand like things with your business, your heart, your mind,
That makes sense.
yeah.